Hello, welcome to Tweet the Leader in You podcast, where we speak about realistic leadership theories. Today is another major step that Tweet the Leader in You will be taking. Yes, we're going to be taking major steps every day, every moment of this podcast. And this moment, we're going global, where we invite global leaders from around the world to inspire, advocate, and to share different lessons to inspire the world. Today, I will be starting with my home country. Yes, I just said it. My home country in the beautiful islands of the Bahamas, but in particular, Nassau, Bahamas. And today we have the amazing Sandena Neely, a leadership, youth advocate, and someone who I look up to as a mentor and coach, and someone who has economic background for change and development. Welcome, Sandena. How are you?
Thank you so much for having me, Tyler. It is so good to be here. I am well.
Awesome. So, who is Sandena Neely and why are you an advocate for youth?
That is a very layered question that I'm so happy to answer. So, I am a multidimensional leader. I work in many different facets. I am a lawyer by profession. I am a consultant. I am a youth advocate, and I am a women's empowerment specialist.
Wow. So speaking about the woman empowerment specialist, what made you to decide that you would like to be involved into that area?
Yes. So growing up, I was kind of shy. I didn't always recognize or know that I was a leader, but I always found myself thinking when situations would happen or questions would be asked. I would always remember thinking as a little girl, I know the answer. I know how to deal with this. Maybe we should do this. And so I started to find my voice and I started to use my voice. And so as I grew, I became more passionate about speaking up. And obviously, women have come a long way and we have much further to go, especially here in the Bahamas. And so, being the fierce woman that I am, when I see that there's something that's not right or something that women need an advocate for, I am so happy to raise my hand or to jump in and to advocate. And I also notice and recognize that women need lots of empowerment. We have lots of power wrapped up inside of us, and we don't even know it. And so I'm that champion. I'm that cheerleader. I'm that woman who is going to say to the other woman, hold your head up high, fix your crown. You are a thermostat. You change and shift atmospheres, and you have greatness on the inside of you. And I'm able to help them to see themselves in a light that they may have never seen themselves.
Wow. And that's what female youth leaders and leaders in general need to hear, to be an inspiration, to be that voice to inspire. And I'm so happy that you are advocating, you are inspiring, you are mentoring female leaders in the Bahamas in particular. And the Bahamas is known for youth development, strategic development, and making sure that our youth's voice are being heard, whether it's in political arena, whether it's on a national stage. It is being heard. And that's why it's very inspiring to when you say that our voice needs to be heard. And I want to touch on that for a little bit. Why does your voice matter for youth in particular?
So in particular for youth, one of my main messages for young people, and I've been involved in youth work for more than 2 decades since I was much younger. Yes, I started out as a youth parliamentarian in our very first edition of Youth Parliament. And then I transitioned to be a youth ambassador, a volunteer with the Ministry of Youth, and getting the opportunity to travel when I was a youth ambassador, it made me understand how important our voices are. And in the last several years, I have put together a message, and it's a platform of 2 things: the power of voice and the power of choice. And so you asked me to touch on the power of voice. That is so important. That is everything. all we have are our words. And so I always encourage persons to, even if your voice shakes, the motivational speaker and guru, Lisa Nichols, she encourages you, even if your voice shakes, you are still to speak. You are to still project your voice. And even though we're talking about projecting, we know that we're not only talking literal, we're also talking figuratively. And so it's such a joy and such a pleasure to see when young people come into our ministry, into the division of youth. And sometimes they're so shy and they don't, their voice is very, very low. And sometimes, yes, their voice even does shake. But when we extract all of the amazing qualities that they have, we are able to see the transformation over time where their voices are now some of the most powerful in our country. We have so many young people that we can look back on through the years and see how they have developed a very powerful voice. Some of them even in the House of Assembly and as government leaders, some as entrepreneurs, some as youth advocates now themselves. And so the power of voice cannot be overstated.
Wow, wow, that's so amazing. Thank you so much for explaining that. And it to touch on the power of people's voice, and I mean, well, youth. On a global perspective, there's a lot of youth who are struggling to share their voice and struggling to actually just be empowered to go out and be the change, and also to be empowered to start the change. And what are some words of advice would you say to global leaders who will be listening to this podcast who would want to take that bold step to use their voice to make a change, to use their voice to inspire someone, to use their voice to build another generation?
To inspire and to build. I love it, Tyler. That is the reason we exist. That is why we do what we do as youth advocates and as persons who champion the voices of youth. We want to inspire them. And so I'll touch on inspire first, and then I'll talk about build. So to inspire them, one good way, especially for global leaders, you want to humanize yourself. You don't want them to see you as a face on a book or just as an author or just someone who is sort of untouchable. So you want to humanize yourself. And the one powerful way to do that is through sharing your stories and your struggles. Yes, we want to see the triumphs. We want to see those beautiful Instagram reels, and we want to see the funny TikToks, and we want to see the carefully curated content. But what we also want to do in order to inspire young people is to humanize ourselves. And I am always excited to get the opportunity to share with young people that, yes, there are many, many glamorous things that can happen over your life, but there will also be some people say challenges. I call them purpose moments. So yes,
Wow.
you may have failures, you may have losses, you may lose family members, you may lose friends through death, through divorce, through so many different things. And I choose to see those things as purpose moments where you come to a fork in the road and you have the opportunity to decide, who am I going to be in this moment? What am I going to do? And our voices can inspire young people to make proper decisions, to make the right decision, to make the appropriate decision. And so as global leaders, that's our job. Yes, we want to show the glitz and we want to show the glamour. And of course, we want to sparkle and shine. But we also want to bring young people's feet to the ground and let them know that challenges and obstacles not may come, will come. And so we want them to be prepared, as prepared as they possibly can be for when those times come. And then the other thing that you touched on is building. And
Yes.
building is so important. And so as global leaders, we want our young people to always, always have in the back and the front of their minds that the building is so important. And so
Yes.
forget the microwave generation, forget the overnight successes. As we know, they don't last long. They're very fleeting. And so we always want to encourage our young people to build wisely. And so you want to ensure that you lay the proper foundation. A strong and a firm foundation ensures that whatever house it is that you're building, is going to be fortified and it's going to be strong and it's going to last from generation to generation. And so we have our ancestors and our forefathers to thank for building firm foundations so that Templeton Tyler Sawyer can be in Halifax, Nova Scotia, hosting a global podcast. That didn't just
Yes.
come overnight. That did
Nope.
not just come overnight. People had to build, people had to grow, people had to learn, people had to overcome obstacles and stumbling blocks. I myself, I had to come through so much. My grandparents, their parents, everybody had to come through so much in order for me to enjoy the successes that I enjoy today. And so we want to inspire our young people and we want to carry the message of building.
Wow, wow. You just said a lot in a nutshell, and I'm so passionate. And one thing that you said is telling your story. Don't forget where you started. That's really important. I see there are some leaders today, they are so successful and they're doing so much amazing things, but they forget why and how they started. And for me, I always wake up every morning. Why am I here today? What is my purpose today and why am I doing it? How am I going to continue to do this purpose-driven thing that I'm going to target towards either my colleagues, either the youth who I'm talking to, or just people in general? We always have to ask those type of questions. And when we're talking about telling our story, we have to know that we are growing and we're developing in each stage of life. And we have to share each of those development stages of life because it helps us to grow more. It helps us to groom more. And there's a favorite quote that I always use. If your actions inspire others to dream more, do more, and become more, you are doing effective leadership. If your actions, if everything that you do inspires others, then you are doing leadership right. Make sure tell the story. Make sure be that agent of change. Make sure go out there and do it right. Do it respectfully. Do it with eagerness and show that you care about the change that you want to target, whether it's in youth or whether it's in people in general. And I always say my passion lies within young people, and it lies in helping and grooming our next generation, our now generation, and our past generation, and every generation there is to come. We have to make sure that we are connecting, we are developing, and we are growing together. And speaking about growing, how are you growing in this coming days, in this pandemic? How are you growing and what are you doing to inspire
Thank you so
others?
much for the question. So I am passionate about personal growth and development. In my Instagram bio, I think I talk about how I'm so passionate about personal growth and development for me and for others. And so anyone who is connected to me in any way, know that I'm always going to be asking, what are you reading? What are you learning? What are you listening to? What are you doing? Because we can't not be doing anything unless it's scheduled. You can schedule a time of nothingness, but we must always be learning and growing. And so over this pandemic, I have had the opportunity for so much personal growth and development, even in the areas that I thought I had achieved or plateaued, achieved so much success. One example is self-care. I find that self-care is one of the most important things, especially for women, because we tend to neglect ourselves. And so I held myself out there prior to the pandemic as a self-care guru. Well, the pandemic came and it taught me, sis, you have some more work to do. And so I've grown in the area of self-care because it teaches you that sometimes when we're still, as you know, a lot of us had a lot of still moments in the pandemic where we could not, even leave our houses. And so being still and being quiet are two completely different things. Because sometimes we're still, but our mind, it's racing and we have so much going on. But we also need to find quiet moments where we are able to quiet ourselves. We're able to not have a million things racing, and we're able to just sit with ourselves. And so I've had to learn to do that because if I allow my mind to have its way, I can be thinking a million things every day, all day. And so that is one thing that I had to learn. I also grew in the area of youth development. As you know, we have had to transition everything virtually. And
Mm-hmm.
so I was able to grow in technology. See, I'm sitting here with
Wow.
you on this podcast. Of course,
Yes.
we had to get me sorted out on the iPhone and downloading certain things, but I
Mm-hmm.
was able to do it successfully. I was not afraid. I didn't let fear overcome me, which possibly would have happened before the pandemic, or I would just have said, "No, I don't want to do it." Maybe I didn't want to challenge myself, and so the
Mm-hmm.
pandemic has helped to help a lot of people to grow and to embrace things that we would not have normally embraced. Even in our division of youth, we had a virtual National Youth Awards. It was so
Yes, I saw
amazing,
that.
and we were able to, still keep our recognition going of so many young people. I'm so proud and so excited of the team of professionals that I work with. We were able to attribute to our amazing young COVID-19 workers, frontline workers,
Wow.
doctors, our persons who work with the energy companies, our police officers. There were so many of them. We did a wonderful video tribute to them. And so it's a lot of growing happening here.
Yes, yes, yes. And that's what it's all about, growing, taking on the challenge. And yes, there may be some stumbling blocks that may allow you to be afraid, but at the end of the day, you should overcome that and actually move forward and all that good stuff. I know that before we go, your book is coming out, and I want you to touch out a little bit about your book that's coming out next week, I believe it is, and share with the audience what your book is all about and how they can get in contact with
Our
you in
time is
regarding that book as
almost
well.
gone. Oh,
No,
wow.
yeah.
Okay. All right. So thank you again for the opportunity to be able to share about my book. As I indicated at the beginning, I'm a multidimensional leader, and now I'm adding author to that list. And so this is my very first book that's coming out. It is something that I'm very, very passionate about. I am a child of the Most High God. And during
Mm-hmm.
2020, I took my prayer life to the next level, and I was ushered into a very, very serious relationship with prayer. My relationship with prayer was deepened in 2020, and it took me back at the end of 2020. I was taken back to 5 to 6 years ago in 2014, 2015, when God gave me 40 plus scriptures that I was
Wow.
to go through and pray through at the beginning of every year. And so I was on an individual journey for the past several years where I would go over these scriptures, sometimes with a prayer partner, but mostly it was an individual journey. And at the end of last year, God said, "You will make the journey public next year." And so
Wow.
I have been on a journey called Obedience is Better Than Sacrifice for the past several years. And so if God said he wanted me to do it, I'm very happy and very obedient to his word and to do it. And so he gave me the go ahead to launch forward. And I started the
Wow.
Fierce 40 prayer journey in January of this year, where persons from Canada, Turks and Caicos Islands, persons in Europe and here in the Bahamas, even in our family islands, they joined me on Facebook for 40 days beginning January 9th, and we rounded up on February 17th, Ash Wednesday, with a 40-day prayer journey. And at the beginning of the prayer journey, God told me to reduce the journey in writing in the form of a book. And so out of the Fairs 40 prayer journey, we now have
Wow.
the Fairs 40 devotional and prayer journal. It's a 40-day journey that takes you through day by day those
Wow.
scriptures that God would have given me. And it gives you an opportunity. The journaling is so important. I'll just touch
It
on one
is.
of the questions that still sticks out to me and still resonates with me. In one of the scriptures we talked about, God has not given you a spirit of fear. And that's a hallmark scripture for a lot of people. And when I was
Mm-hmm.
writing down the journal prompts, the question that came, and there's so much more, but I'll just share. The question that came is, what is your fear afraid of? What
Wow.
is your fear afraid of? And so a lot of times we fear, but our fears are afraid of something. And when I sat to write about that, do you know what our fears are afraid of? One of the main things, our fear is afraid of action. Our
Wow.
fear is afraid that we are going to take action, that we're not going to be afraid anymore, and that we're going to be fierce, and that we're going to embrace all that God has purposed for us to be. And so that is just a snippet I wanted to share from the book. And so the book is coming out. Today is May 1st. The book is coming out in May. So happy new month to everyone. We are just a few short days away from releasing the date for our book launch. But if you want to follow the journey, you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or LinkedIn at Sandena Neely. Sandena Neely on all of my social media handles, and you'll find my author page. And if you want to join us, we have our Fairs 40 group on Facebook. It's called Fairs 40. And we join together for prayer every Tuesday morning. We are going strong. We are excited. The book will be available on Amazon. The book will be available. I'll tell you a secret. I have a website that's coming out. So at the book launch, we'll be launching my website, and you'll be able to get the book on Amazon on my website. You can also order your paperback. You can order your e-Kindle. You're going to be able to find the book wherever you want. And as you can tell, I'm so
Wow.
passionate about this because I just believe it's going to usher in a new wave of prayer for believers
Wow.
and even for non-believers. It's going to connect you in ways you could not even imagine. And this is just book one of a series.
Wow, that's really amazing. I'm definitely going to be purchasing that book as well. I may purchase maybe 5 copies to give to someone who just needs it as well. And so I am so happy that you have joined this podcast today, because we need to hear leaders who are talking more about growth, development, change, fear, overcoming fears, and also adding the spiritual aspect to trust God and allow God to be the center into all your journey, because we have religious leaders who are around the world and youth leaders who are around the world as well, and they're going to be listening to this podcast, and they're going to be inspired to develop and to grow and to see where they want to overcome and be their placement in society. Thank you so much, Sandena, for coming onto the podcast. I really do appreciate you being here today. When you are developing, when you are growing, when you are being that advocate of change, remember that when you are going forward, do it strong, do it fearless, do it with all your might, because you are a youth champion. And I would say youth has no age limit. Youth has no age limit. You can move forward by being the best version of yourself, by designing your growth strategy. Have a great day, and remember, develop, grow, move forward. Have a great day.